Hello students, a very good morning to all of you. To carry your topic forward from yesterday's topic, sectors of the Indian economy, the third segment, again to recall, in the first segment, activities-based economy we have seen. In the second segment, we have talked about organized and unorganized sectors on the basis of the nature of employment. And in the third segment, students, we are talking about on the basis of ownership, what types of economies are there in our country. So on the basis of ownership, I was telling you yesterday, it is private sector enterprises and public sector enterprises. In the private sector enterprises, the enterprises or the establishments or the factories or industries are not registered with the government. They are owned and managed by the individual or a group of individuals. All the profit and loss is bear by them only. All the appointments in the private sector is done by the private individuals who are the owners of the private enterprises, and all the conditions of work are also decided by the private individuals, and much depends on the owner, what type of activities he is adopting. And actually we cannot say that they are totally outside the control of the government, but we can say that there are certain rules and regulations for the private sectors also, but it depends on the whims of the employer whether he follow it or not. All the factory acts, shops, establishment acts, they are applicable on them. But because they are not registered with the government, so it depends on them whether they follow it or not. And time to time government makes laws for that. And if they follow it, that would be very good. You must have seen that in India, there are many private sector industries, like you can see in your own town, ITC, tobacco company. So they are keeping their employees very comfortable, and they are following certain rules and regulations made by the government time to time. So these are private sector enterprises. One more thing. In the private sector enterprises, the production work is done for profit motive. Not for profit motive only, not for public welfare. Why? Because I told you that they have invested their property in it. They have invested money in their enterprise. So they work not for the public welfare, but only for the profit motive. If you compare the products in the market, the products made by the private enterprises and the products made by the public enterprises, public sector enterprises, you will find a great gap between the prices. Their products are always costly, but they are up to the mark, no doubt. Because there is a competition between them. One industry is producing the same thing, the other industry. So there is a competition. Competition regarding quality, competition regarding the prices. So like this they work. Correct, students? I hope you are understanding my point. Then we come to the public sector enterprises. Now, can you ask me a question? That I told you that private sectors work for profit motive, not for the public welfare. Isn't it that public sectors are producing things for public welfare, not for the profit? Yes, it is indeed. In the public sector enterprises, things are produced not for the profit motive, but for the public welfare. Now, let me give you an example. Public sector enterprises, they take up the construction of roads, infrastructure, etc. Okay, public sectors produce goods, they provide us services only because they want public welfare, and they can derive money through taxes. Private individuals are not authorized to impose taxes on the people. It is only the government who can derive money through taxes. We use road, we use water, we use so many things that are provided by the government. So they are provided for public welfare because, you know, government also need money for different welfare works. They also need money. But they do not work for profit motive. Why? Because they can derive money through taxes. And private sectors are not authorized to impose taxes on the people. They themselves are taxpayers. So in the public sector enterprises, all those activities are undertaken which are for public welfare, and many people are benefited by it. Suppose government constructs a dam, they construct multi-purpose projects, they construct roads. Railway is a very good example of public welfare. Suppose if railway goes in private sector, It will not be possible for common people to travel in railway, because in railway a very rich person can travel and a very poor person can also travel. All type of people can travel. There are different compartments. So if it is given in private hands, it will be very difficult for the poor people to travel. So because it is in public hands, a public sector under the government, so you know that all the people are capable of traveling in trains. So on the basis of ownership, there are private sector enterprises, there are public sector enterprises, and they work. Private sector works for profit motive, public sectors work for not only profit motive, but they work for public welfare. Question is why? Because they can derive money through taxes. It doesn't mean that they do not need money. If we say that public sectors are producing goods, they are giving us services for public welfare, it doesn't mean that they do not need money. They need money, but they can derive money through taxes. Lots of taxes are there for them, and they can carry on their welfare works through these taxes. Understand? So this was the third segment of your chapter, the classification of Indian economy sector on the basis of ownership. Now, between the chapter, there are so many terms that I want to tell you, because they come in 1 mark in board examination, and in between also you are asked in a 3 marks question also. For the last 2 days, I am talking about GDP, gross domestic production. I told you that in primary sector, more than 60% people are having their livelihood, but GDP is very low. Talking about all this. Now, what is GDP? It is gross domestic production. What does it mean? What is gross domestic production? The value of final goods and services produced in a country in an economic year gives us the GDP of the country. Again, I am repeating. The value of all the final goods and services produced in a country in an economic year gives us the gross domestic production of that country. And remember, student, it is a very mammoth means very difficult task to calculate the GDP of a country, and particularly in a country like India, which is such a big country and so many sectors of the economy are working here. So calculating the GDP of a country is not an easy task. It is very mammoth, very difficult task. This is undertaken by the central government ministry. Central government ministry, there are experts in it. They give order to the state ministries. They give order to the state ministries to calculate the value of goods and services produced in their respective states, send it to the center, and then central committees sit together and they calculate the GDP of the whole country. Understand? Again, I am repeating for you. It is the work of the central government to calculate the GDP of a country, or GDP of India, and it is a mammoth task. So to do this task, the central government asks the state ministry, the state governments to calculate the GDP. Then this task becomes easier, a bit easier. So the state ministries are asked to calculate the value of final goods and services in their states. Then they send it to the center, and then central ministry calculates the GDP of primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, and the total GDP of the country. Understand? Then there is one more term in your NCERT. Look into NCERT. NCERT is very important, very prescribed book for you. There is another term, national income. Very important for you in higher classes when you go for commerce also. National income. Now, what does it mean? We say national income of a country matters a lot. National income of a country is of great concern for the economic welfare and benefit. So, national income means the value of all the final goods and services produced in a country plus income coming from abroad. National income में abroad income भी add हो गई है. GDP में only the domestic production, whatever is produced in a country in an economic year, gives us the GDP of a country. And in the national income, GDP plus income coming from abroad, means the foreign trade is also included in it. The things which we are buying and selling, that is also included in national income. So these are very important terms to learn: gross domestic production and national income. there is one more term in your chapter, that is right to work. Another 1 mark or 3 mark question. And why this question arises, right to work, I have talked about disguised unemployment day before yesterday, when I was telling you about the primary sector, why it is not giving proper GDP to the country. I told you, if you remember, that because of disguised unemployment. I also gave you another term for disguised unemployment or hidden, छुपा हुआ, hidden unemployment. Yes? I told you, if you remember, that in India, a primary sector suffers with hidden unemployment or disguised unemployment because many jobs are not created. There is lots of unemployment in the country, and particularly this happens in rural areas. Urban areas also are hit by it, but in rural areas what happens, that if in a farmer's family there is a patch of land, and suppose only 3 people are needed to work on it, but if there are 5 or 6 family members, and because they are without work, so they all will go to the same field, the whole day they will work on it. Apparently they will be seen to be working. Apparently, if we see them with naked eyes, they will be seen to be working. All of them are working, they are doing some work or the other, but actually their potential is not coming out. Potential means the strength. The potential is not coming out because the working sphere is very low, very little, and only 3 people are needed, but all 5 or 6 are working. In this situation, if these 2 or 3 extra people are turned out and they are taken away either by a small scale industry or by a landlord to work in his field, this will really prove very beneficial, because this is hidden unemployment, because those are extra burden on the field. And if they are taken somewhere else, not only they will get additional work, but also the family income will increase. Understand? And this is what we need today in India. Disguised unemployment is happening in rural areas as well as in urban areas. We call a manson in the house, he brings with him his brother or his son to work. The wages are divided between them. So the potential of the person is not coming out. Let me give you an example. In class 9th, you must have read about human resources, about the people as a resource. Remember? So human beings are the resource of a country, like air, water, vegetation, they are resources of a country. So even we people, human beings, are the resources of a country. And if we work, country will develop. And if we suffer with unemployment, there are so many types of unemployment in India. I am talking about hidden unemployment. There is open unemployment also, 1 mark question in your NCERT. Open unemployment means people are sitting from the beginning of the day to the night doing nothing. Either they don't want to work or they do not have work. So open unemployment. There is hidden unemployment. People are apparently seen to be working, but actually they are not working. Actually their potential is not coming out. The strength which they are having inside, that is not coming out because of the lack of jobs. So this is hidden unemployment, and see, India should worry about it, because it is wasting our valuable human resources. I told you that if these extra people from a workplace, if they are taken away somewhere else and they have been provided with work, not only family income will increase, but also we will be able to use our human resources. So they are very important for a country. So like this, it goes. Right to work was assigned by the government, looking all this, that people are without work, and Manrega, you must have read, previously it was Narega, now it is Manrega, it was passed in 2005, assured employment to everyone in India. Previously it was adopted in 200 districts, now it is applicable on more than 600 districts. It is 100 days assured work to all. 100 days in a year, assured work to all. And because all the people cannot be given work at a time, it is impossible. So those people who do not get work immediately, they will be given unemployment, unemployment, the form of money till they get work. So they will get a certain amount of money as because they are unemployed. Okay, so they have been given this money. So this is right to work. Again, I must tell you students that schemes are passed in India. Time to time government passes different schemes to remove unemployment, etc. But actually they do not reach to the people because of corruption in the country a lot. Lots of corruption is there. So unemployment is there in the country. So allowances are given. This is unemployment allowance. Berozgari bhatta, unemployment allowance is given until people get 100 days assured work. So this was all about your chapter. Second chapter is complete today. Sectors of the Indian economy. Go through the NCERT again and again. Go through this lecture and note down all these topics. Actually, they are very important for you. Even if you go through it one by one, the whole preparation for board is complete. So tomorrow we will start with another chapter, third chapter of economics, and go through it. Have a very nice day and prepare your notes. Thank you.